Welcome back, besties. We are now going to talk about the Alabasta Saga. So sit down and get comfortable because this is probably going to be a very long one. We enter the Grand Line through Reverse Mountain, and holy fucking shit. Why did no one tell me that I was going to be crying over a goddamn whale? The number of things that I have cried on at One Piece are things that I never thought that I would cry about in my life. And the whale is like at the top of the damn fucking list. Because what do you mean that I was emotionally fucking destroyed by the backstory of a whale that we just met? Oda, when I catch you, man. So yeah, we enter the Grand Line. That happened a lot faster than I thought it was going to. I don't know why, but obviously when you go into One Piece, you know that it is this massive story. Thousands of chapters. And you get told in the beginning that this is like the goal, you're like entering the Grand Line to try to find the One Piece and all of this. So for some reason, I thought that the Grand Line was going to be like the end goal. Now, that's just probably me not fully understanding the story in the beginning, but I just thought that it was going to take a lot longer to get there. So anyways, we enter and we are immediately shown how bizarre things are going to be. You have this mountain that you have to enter where you're going up it, like the river's going up, and then you enter. And then they enter and they're actually inside of a fucking whale. And you meet Crocus, and Crocus is a character that is so fucking funny. He's like the definition of a rage baiter. Like, it was so funny meeting him. His introduction was one that I watched in the anime because everyone was telling me to do so, and I'm glad that I did because it's just so funny. And Crocus tells us about Laboon, this poor whale who is at the beginning of the Grand Line, and we learn that he is waiting for a pirate crew that he was with 50 years ago. And he's still waiting. He's like constantly hurting himself to try and get to the other side of the Grand Line. And he's got scars all over the top of his head. And oh my God, I sobbed. Sobbed. Now, others may be like, oh, that's not that emotional. I'm a crier. Like, it is so easy to make me cry. And I'm just like already an emotional person, so I cried. Honestly, anything to do with an animal in a story is just always gonna get me because I don't know, for some reason that is one of my like immediate emotional triggers. And it probably has to do with this little guy who is the love of my life and my absolute best friend ever. This is Shoyo. I thought I'd introduce you. He's always in the background. But so we get this whale who is experiencing this intense loneliness. I mean, he's not lonely, he's got Crocus, but obviously he is always yearning for his crew. And Luffy sees this, and instead of just wallowing in what he just learned and feeling sad for this whale, he gives this whale another purpose. He says, wait for me, I'll see you soon. And he puts his Jolly Roger mark on his head so that he will no longer hurt himself. And oh my fucking God, the way that Luffy is actually so emotionally intelligent is insane. Because obviously, right off rip on the surface, you kind of see him as this very aloof guy he's just got his goal and he's just kind of like sillying around the world, and you think that he's a little bit not there at first. And then you start to really see how smart he is. He's emotionally intelligent, he's intelligent, he doesn't necessarily think everything through. Actually, he doesn't think anything. He doesn't have thought bubbles at all. So we always assume that he is just like an instinct guy, but his instincts are so good. And I commend Oda for writing him like that because I think it is so well done. He's goofy, he's reckless, he is never thinking anything through, but he understands people and apparently now whales on a deeper level than we understand as a reader, and I love it. We get introduced to log poses, which are essentially One Piece special compasses that let you travel through the Grand Line based off islands' minerals. I just thought that was very cool. Then after this, we head to Whiskey Peak, and Whiskey Peak is an island that looks very inviting at first, and then you discover that it is full of bounty hunters. It is full of secret organization people who are working with the organization of Baroque Works, and they are very interested in the Straw Hats. And I'm like, okay, what's going on? We meet Vivi, who is one of my favorite characters ever, and she's a princess of the kingdom of Alabasta, and I was so shocked. Obviously, we see her as someone that is working with the Baroque Wars at first, and then we learn that she's actually a princess that's undercover trying to figure out what this organization wants with her kingdom. And I have since learned that Oda himself didn't know that she was going to be a princess at first when he wrote her, and I do, again, love these little OVSs that we get. It is such a good way to connect with an author that is otherwise very private, and I love that Oda does this. I think it's just such a way to connect with him, and I love that he gives us a little glimpse into his mind and also a little weirdness. Back to Vivi. She is instantly such an interesting character that I just like wanted to know more about. I feel like obviously I read a lot of fantasy, romance fantasy, so the whole anything that has to do with like a kingdom and a princess, like that's what a lot of my shelves are filled with. So obviously this is automatically like piquing my interest. So I wanted to know more about her country, her motivations, what's going on with this country. And yes, I immediately already had so many questions about Crocodile in regards to Alabasta. Like, why is he trying to find this place? Or why is he trying to control this place? That felt very ominous. Obviously, we later on start to see that a lot of people just want control of places. But I feel like this arc does a really good job of introducing us to this very, very large world and the fact that we know nothing about it. And then we meet Miss All Sunday, my fucking goat. I was immediately like, who are you? I'm very intrigued by you. Obviously, her introduction is very fucking cool. She was giving very chic girly pop. And I'm obsessed with her. She's a very mysterious and powerful character that we know nothing about at this point, other than she's a Baroque Works agent. Then we get to the bounty hunters of Whiskey Peak, and we see our Straw Hats shine once again. Zoro and Luffy are like having their moments in this one. I love the way that Oda continues to do Zoro justice in the way that he draws him. As a girly who simps for the characters that she reads about, I was very much simping for Zoro. Starting here. Zoro's combat so far has been very interesting to see. Obviously, we've kind of seen him get his ass beat by everyone in Baratier, but you know that he is on this quest to become the strongest swordsman, and he's very kind of unserious. He's a very like laid back guy. Even when he's like really struggling, you don't really like see him show that. And when he's like killing it, he's also like not really showing that he's like feeling himself or anything like that. And this was one of those moments where he was just very laid back in the fact that he was beating the shit out of everyone. And that was really fun to read. He's super serious and efficient, but like he is at the same time still really funny, even though he's not trying to be. And I think that's the whole point of his character, is that he does often give us comedic relief, but he doesn't know that he's doing that. And then Luffy always is like endlessly entertaining to read about. Nothing that he does ever really makes much sense until you like start to really think about like every event that led to it, but like sometimes he does things and you're like, what the fuck is going on? But you're having a great time doing it. Watching them tear through Whiskey Peak was so fun, and every character shines in this entire saga. So I want to start with Zoro, because just his moment with all of the bounty hunters was so fun to read. The scene where he is on the rooftop and everyone's looking at him, and then he disappears and he's like on the ground with everyone, reminded me of, if anyone has seen Devil May Cry, where Dante's being hunted and everyone's shooting at him, and then he appears right next to him and he's like, who are we shooting at? I don't know, that just instantly reminded me of that scene, and I loved it. It was just, again, I have certain scenes from the earliest, like, arcs and sagas that just stick with me because they were funny or they were just super in fact impactful, and that's one of them. Another way of Oda, like, balancing, you know, the plot with comedy. I do want to talk about the Luffy versus Zoro fight that happens in this one, because I've seen a lot of discourse surrounding the fact that it felt really forced, it felt unnecessary, and I have to disagree, just because there's a lot of things in One Piece that I've noticed that feel like they're unnecessary. But I think that that's the whole point of it. Some things are added just for the sake of it and just for relief or to show us a little bit of something about the character. And I feel like this one, obviously, we still don't know too much about these characters. We're only, you know, what, at this point, like 10% into the story. And so we're still learning these people. These people are still learning each other. And I feel like this one was just something that was like silly and funny and ridiculous. It was show us how much how much stock Luffy puts into food, to show us how strong these two are at this point, and to just be comedic relief. Like, I don't think it was supposed to really mean anything, and that was the whole point of it. I don't think it was forced. I don't think it took me out of the story at all. Like, it just was something that, like, you read and you're like, okay, there's no, like, deeper meaning to this, and there doesn't have to be for every scene that's added. It's not like this felt super odd or anything like that. I don't know, maybe that's just me. Maybe I didn't think that it was as serious as some others took it, and that's okay. I mean, it's okay to disagree on that. Maybe you thought that this was super unnecessary, and that's fine. There's other stuff in One Piece that I think is super unnecessary that others think isn't. So that's the beauty of taking in fiction, is we all have a different understanding of it. We all have different perceptions of certain things that we read, because reading is subjective and everyone takes some things differently, and that's fine. Then we enter Little Garden. One of the things in the beginning of this one that really hit for me was, you know, we start to see our friend family like really start to form here, in my opinion, because Nami says, "Don't your cares just melt away on a ship like this?" And to me, that was such a good way to show us that Nami is healing from everything that she has dealt with in her life. She finally feels like she can relax and really enjoy life the way that you're supposed to. Obviously, the whole point of being a pirate is adventures and fun and freedom and doing what you want, and Nami hasn't been able to experience that because she has been in a constant survival mode up until this point. And to see her say that, like, oh, it just warmed my heart so much. And it really showcased that she feels at peace with the people that she's with. She feels protected. She feels like she can let go and actually take in the little joys of life, and I loved it. And then we see that Little Garden is just as bizarre as the last two places that we stopped at, because it is an island that is in the prehistoric times and there are dinosaurs. See, again, when I started this, I thought, silly little pirate story. There are some things that have happened in this that I'm like, what the fuck is going on, and how did you even think this up? Like, what do you mean that we're in a pretty decently advanced technological era, obviously in this world that is completely overrun by water, but there's an island that is still in prehistoric times and there's dinosaurs in it. But then it's like there's other islands that are not like that. And it's the fact that, like, that can happen in a world like this. It's just wild, and it's so fun because I feel like when you're reading One Piece, you cannot read into what, like, you can't predict what's gonna happen next. Like, at least I can't, and maybe that's my fault. Maybe others have been able to predict a lot of things. I cannot for the life of me predict what an island is gonna look like at this point, because we have seen so much. And that is so fun. I love a story that keeps me so hooked because I have questions about everything that I read. Didn't expect this, but I'm having the best time right now. We meet Dory and Bragi, who are giants in this dinosaur island that have been battling it out for the last, oh god, what was it, 100 years? And I felt like the way that they showed us Dory and Bragi was kind of like similar to how Zoro and Sanji act with each other, and I feel like it was a way to kind of show us what Zoro and Sanji's relationship is gonna look like on, you know, as crew members. And I thought that was fun because obviously we see Dory and Bragi, and while they are constantly at odds, they do have so much love and respect for each other. Obviously, they have spent so much time battling it out. But I don't think that they actually really have any desire to end this and actually make it to Elbaf, but maybe I'm wrong. Anyways, Straw Hats are attacked by Baroque works, and we see a lot of different things play out here. Sanji obviously is kind of in the background. He didn't have a ton of a spotlight, but he did something so important in this one, which was secure the Eternal Pose log and talk to Sir Crocodile, who at this point we know nothing about. And I feel like this was a really, really good way to show us just how smart Sanji is, because he was able to quickly think on his feet and realize what he needed to do to get information out of him. And that was so fucking cool because personally, I could never. And I just loved this, you know, little show of Sanji's intelligence and like how just bright he is. Usopp was also one that had a really good moment in this arc because he finally, I feel like, has a goal for what he wants. He wants to be a true warrior and make it to Elbaf. And I thought that was so cool because obviously everyone else has their goals at this point. Like Sanji wants to find the All Blue, Zoro wants to become the greatest swordsman, Nami wants to map out the world, Luffy wants to become king of the pirates, and so now Usopp has like his one major objective, and I'm so happy for him and I hope that he's able to accomplish this. Because watching him slowly shift from this really scared, frightened kid who dreamed really big but never had a chance to act on the things that he wanted to now someone who is determined to become a warrior and help his crew. I think that's just like wonderful character development, and I am so excited to see him continue to grow, and I'm so excited to see what he's gonna do and how he's gonna make it to being a true warrior. You know, his development feels really earned, and every arc so far has added another layer to him. I really enjoy him. I also will say that I am a very easy to please reader. I am not the most critical person whatsoever, so there is very little that I dislike about the things that I read. And I like to say that when I'm posting videos like this and, you know, when I'm entering a new niche, essentially, because there's a lot of things where people criticize certain things, and I'm not saying that that's wrong. No, not at all. I completely understand that other people criticize things more than I do. I am just a very simple person who is very easy to please. So I just like saying that. So I understand people that don't like Usopp at this point. I do. It's just not me. And of course, Luffy is still my favorite little guy. He's exploring the island, being just absolutely unaware of his surrounding, assuming that nothing is gonna hurt him, and then he's immediately eaten by a what was it? Oh my god, I can't remember what kind of dinosaur it was. It was such Luffy behavior. And he does so much that just makes me laugh, and it's so needed for me specifically because he's just like such a reckless, hilarious, endearing character. Always makes you laugh even in the most dire situations. I also need to talk about the villains of this one, the Baroque Works, this secret organization that had, like, I have so many questions about them, and like the way that they treat animals in this story makes me so just angry. The way that Karoo was treated in this one literally drove me fucking nuts. Like, if you harm an animal, you are the scum of the earth. Truly. I was like yelling every time something is happening to an animal. I'm just like, leave that fucking being alone for the love of God. And like everything was happening in this one, and Karoo was all part of this, and obviously he was very crucial in our success in this one. But anytime anything was happening to him where it looked like he might get like gravely injured, I was like, I'm going to lose my mind. Moments like this really cement One Piece's themes of compassion and standing up for those that can't stand up for themselves. Obviously, we have seen Luffy stand up for people constantly. We have seen Luffy protect animals constantly. And I love that Oda continues to show us good moral compasses in our main characters and how important it is to have compassion and to protect those that can't protect themselves. I love it. I want to talk about Miss Golden Weeks because she surprised me the most. And actually, now that I think about it, I still have questions about her because she was someone who had abilities that did not rely on a devil fruit. And obviously, I know a little bit more about powers in this world. I still don't understand hers, actually. The fuck? So it just makes me wonder what other powers are in this world and how many people have other powers that aren't reliant on devil fruits or the other power system that we now know that I won't talk about here. Um, like, is she a one-off or is this something that we're gonna consistently see in the future? So many questions, zero answers, very, very Oda-like. And then once again, this theme of connecting and building community wherever the Straw Hats go hit so hard because we see the Giants obviously get very close with the Straw Hats and they ended up helping them as they were leaving. They say that they will allow no enemy to trample on their friend's pride and they cleared the way out of the island for them. And it was just such a like beautiful, beautiful moment of loyalty, respect, and community. And I love seeing how many connections the Straw Hats build wherever they go. And I feel like that's gonna come into play whenever One Piece is starting to end. Um, and I don't know how, but I feel like when you have a story that is so long where you're meeting so many different characters, they all have to have some sort of larger purpose and or at least in a lot of the other things that I've read that has happened, you know, in very, very long stories, like everything, even though they're separated into, you know, seasons or singular books or whatnot, at the very end, everything kind of comes together. Every character kind of comes together in some way, shape, or form. And so I hope that we will see them again. I hope that they will help Luffy even more become king of the pirates because it's very obvious that everyone that Luffy interacts with that's not a villain ends up loving him and like believing in his goal. Maybe I'm wrong and they won't ever come back, but it would be really cool if they did. Then we move into Drum Island, another one that made me sob my fucking eyes out. The fact that the word mushroom made me cry like a fucking baby, that's a sentence that I never thought I'd be saying. Also, I was watching my TikTok video back on this one and I said, I wonder if Blackbeard's gonna be important. Oh, you sweet ignorant child. Oh, to go back to where I knew nothing. The ignorance of me. Anyways, I was truly not ready for how emotional this arc was, but I'll be honest, I don't think I've been ready for anything that's been emotional in One Piece because again, I went into this thinking, you know, silly shonen, it's gonna be so fun, I'm gonna have a blast, and I am, don't get me wrong, but I am also crying like every other fucking chapter at this point. The themes of like fundamental human rights that we have seen so far are crazy and it really makes me love Oda as a person and what he stands for and what he is pushing in the messaging of this story. We saw with Sanji how he believes everyone should have food. Like that shouldn't be that crazy of a sentence, you know what I mean? Like everyone should have access to food. Everyone should be able to feed themselves every day. That is a fundamental human right that everyone in the world should have. No one should be hungry. And I love that Oda shows us that through Sanji. And now this one shows us that everyone should have access to healthcare. That healthcare shouldn't be privatized. It shouldn't be monetized. And oh, that it's crazy. I love that this silly little pirate story is actually so deeply, insanely political because everything in the world is political, but that's an argument for a different day. Actually, it's not because we're going to talk about it soon. Here we see the privatization of healthcare, and that is insane to me. We start this arc with Nami being sick, and to me that was very, very stressful. Whenever anything happens that has to do with health in a story, I get very afraid because a lot of the times sickness is something that a lot of people in fictional stories and real stories in real life can't fix. So whenever anything happens like that, I get very, very scared because not everything can be fixed by powers. I'm going to talk about Vampire Diaries for a second here. If anyone has watched that, um, one of my absolute favorite characters, Liz Forbes, dies from cancer, and it's something that not even vampirism can fix. So that always kind of like, I always go back to that scene whenever anything happens in a fictional story, because a lot of the times magic can't fix illness. And so even in this world where there is powers and some sort of magic, like whenever anything health-wise happens, I just get very, very scared. But anyways, I went on a tangent there. We get to this island thanks to Nami, actually, who was able to get up even though she's like sick and dying, not actually dying, but she's very, very sick, and she's still able to overcome that for a second. They make it to this island thanks to, I think it was like, so Nami told them of it, like incoming weather, and then like Zoro saw a cloud and they headed there, and so thankfully they landed on an island that had a doctor. Then we meet Wapol, who is still a character that I absolutely despise, not because he was a good villain, but because he was like a pest. He was a joke of a villain, and when I was talking about this prior, I mentioned how I thought that that was very intentional to kind of balance out how fucking sad Chopper's backstory is. Like, I feel like whenever something really, really depressing is going to happen, there is going to be a balance of that comedic relief, and I think Wapol was that. He wasn't really anybody powerful or scary or any of the sort. He was just kind of there. Chopper. Oh my god. Still one of my favorite characters, and his backstory absolutely fucking gutted me. He is someone that was enduring constant rejection from those around him, both deer, animals, and humans, and he never found connection, and then he finally finds it in Dr. Hiraluk, who was a very, very intriguing, wild character. And then he finds that connection, and Hiraluk is killed. And that, oh, the whole scene with Hiraluk saying, "A monster will come soon. Don't kill him. He's my son." Oh my god, I'm gonna start crying just talking about it because that shit fucking hit. It was another found family moment, a found parent, a found guardian who protects their child no matter what. His entire backstory truly, like, oh my god, it just destroyed me. I wanted to hug him and like never let go, because I just feel like he dealt with so much. He was an outcast his entire life, wanted connection, and found it, and then lost it, and oh fuck, it just hurt. Luffy again proves how good of a fucking character he is. His devotion to his crew, his bond with his crew, and how far he's willing to go for them is astonishing. He has this way of saying exactly what someone needs to hear without like really overcomplicating it. When he tells Chopper that he's his friend and he wants him to be on the crew, it's not because he sees Chopper as someone useful. It's not because Chopper is a doctor. It's not because of any of that. It's just because he liked him and he wanted him with him. He is not out here collecting people that he thinks are going to get him to be a king of the pirates. He's just finding friends. He's finding his family, he's finding his crew, and I love the way he's going about him and the fact that it is all instinct and listening to his gut, because so far it's worked out really, really well. His climb up the mountain with Nami on his back, holy shit. I immediately like went and watched it in the anime because like as I was reading it, I was stressed, and I knew that I needed to see this with the animation and the voices and the soundtrack, and it did not disappoint at all. It was so well done, and just again shows us how far he's willing to go for the people that he cares about, and the fact that if he can help it, no one's gonna suffer. You know what I mean? A moment that like stopped me in my tracks in this one was the mention of the Will of D in connection to Goldie Roger. Like, I was like, okay, Dr. Kuroha, what do you know right now? Like, tell me immediately. because I still have questions and I want to know what she knows. I also really loved the like how different this arc was in terms of like a villain, because there really wasn't one. It was like the environment that you had to fight against, and I feel like that was a good way to show us that we're going to sometimes land on islands where there isn't like a big bad guy, because Wapol wasn't that, but sometimes you are going to have to fight your environments. And that was also reflected a little bit in the last one, because what got Nami sick was a old ass bug that bit her. So it's like sometimes you have to deal with your environment, and it's not going to be a big bad guy that's putting you in danger. It's actually just your surroundings. It just like drives home how scary, bizarre, and insane the Grand Line is. And of course, we got, you know, our next Straw Hat, who is a doctor, who is Chopper, and I'm so glad that he decided to join the crew, because I think he's going to be so incredible. I can't wait to see what like his big objective is, and you know, everything that he does with the Straw Hats. His perspective adds so much to the group, and I'm so excited to see him grow with everyone. And the last thing that I want to talk about is one of Luke's lines, which was, "People don't die when they lose their lives, they die when they are forgotten." And oh my god, the way that that phrase has stuck with me since I read it, and the fact that it has been something that it's been something that has impacted me throughout this story a lot. So now we officially get to Alabasta, and holy shit, there is so much to unpack there, because oh my god, there just a lot fucking happened. We've got political themes, rebellion, new characters, unhinged fights, shows of how propaganda spreads in a world. Oh my god, insane. Just so much to talk about. So let's start. Right when you get to Alabasta, you see the way that the people of Alabasta see Crocodile as this savior. They worshipped him. And at first I was like, what the hell? Like, how is this villain that we know of like being seen as someone to worship? But it makes sense, because they think that he's protecting them. He is causing all of this mayhem in order to fix it so that they can see him as their savior and their go-to for salvation, essentially. And as the audience, that's really difficult to read, because we are seeing that he is orchestrating the suffering of the people just to fake fix it. And he does this in order to destabilize the nation and take control of it. And oh my fucking god, like I was so frustrated reading this. Because we know that Oda pulled all of this inspiration from real world, from world history, and from nations that we have seen destabilized through internal secret groups. Anyways, I'm not gonna go down that rabbit hole. Like, essentially watching a country be destabilized by political beings is really, feels way too real. It's brilliant storytelling on Oda's part, truly. And there is Mr. Tubanclet. Oh my god, I loved him. I really did. From the get-go, I was like, I don't know, he doesn't really feel like a true villain. He seemed so fun, and it was kind of hard to see him as a villain, even as he was fighting with Sanji. I just really enjoyed his character, and I loved him at the end of this one too. I won't say anything more, because obviously we can talk about him later, but he's so like flamboyant, confident, unapologetically himself, so openly gender fluid in a story that was written in the early 2000s, and I thought that was so well done, because he's like not the butt of a joke. His power is actually seen as power, and I think it was just so well written, and I loved the show of like themes of identity and transformation, and the fact that that is seen as a good thing. And I love Oda. I love that Oda created a character like this so long ago. I think it was beautiful and so well done. The Straw Hats continue to be absolutely everything to me. Everything that they stand for, everything that they do constantly just like keeps me in awe. The armbands that they wore to mark who they were because they saw who, you know, what Mr. Tubanclay's power was so great, and the bond that they were able to form with Vivi was incredible. They're all these people with very painful pasts who have been able to find each other and come together, and the way that they took Vivi in, oh, I loved it. I think one of the biggest themes of this one was Luffy actually teaching Vivi to rely on others. Vivi is someone who grew up too fast and wasn't able to like revel in her childhood, and has constantly felt like she needed to take on the burden of everything. She needed to fix her kingdom on her own, and she had to take on the role of, you know, princess and do all of this, and she has never felt like she could trust others and rely on them. And Luffy and the Straw Hats tell her differently, basically. They say, we are here for you, we are going to help you. Luffy teaches her to let go and to unburden herself and to rely on them to help her, and I thought that was so beautiful and well written, because she's able to see that relying on others is not a weakness, it's actually a power, that she has friends and a family that wants to help her kingdom, and that was so beautiful. We also get introduced to Ace in this one, and I will say nothing more other than I loved him and I was simping. Back to Vivi. Her story, like, truly hurt in the best ways. We find out that her childhood friend Koza is the leader of the rebel group that is like fighting against the royalty of Alabasta, essentially, and they are fueled by Crocodile's, you know, actions in the background, but obviously they don't know this. And she is someone that is trying to save her kingdom, so she's essentially standing in between these two powers, and oh my god, I can only imagine how stressful that must have been for her when she figured it out. But we know that the rebels aren't evil, they are desperate to save their kingdom, and they think that the way to do that is to fight with the royal family, when in reality we know that they're being lied to and manipulated. And just again, watching Crocodile manipulate this entire nation was so stressful, because it was so terrifyingly smart. I want to talk about Sanji as Mr. Prince because he was so crucial in this one. Just seeing him like clutch back to back was so good. We learned that Miss All Sunday had a huge bounty placed on her when she was 8 years old, and that her name is Nico Robin, and I mean, I said it in the beginning already, I was intrigued by her, and now even more so. We also see that Smoker is here, and he has a really good presence. Again, he is one of the very rare Marines that are not a terrible human being, and he feels like what someone in power should be like, and I feel like he represents a good moral compass in the governmental powers, but he's a rare. He's a one in a million, essentially. All of the Straw Hats' strategies to get into Alubarno were so good. The disguises as they were writing all of the, oh god, I can't remember their names. All of Karoo's people. It was just like the disguises, the capes, putting the camel on. It was just, I love how clever they are when they're together. The fights in this one were really, really brutal for everyone, but I feel like everyone got their moment to shine. Obviously, they all won. Zoro took an insane amount of damage. Sanji and Bon Clay was so, it was interesting to read just because I like know that Sanji is so strong, but obviously he's got this line that he refuses to cross when it comes to fighting women. Nami's fight was really fucking cool, and I feel like I hope to see her continue to grow strength-wise because she's so smart, obviously, but there's so much in this world that we know is going to be physically dangerous, and I hope to see her like figure out how to fight and how to win in fights like that. I did love to see how she figured this one out, even though it had me kind of clutching my pearls the entire time. Luffy's entire fight sequence with Crocodile was probably one of the most stressful ones I've read. I mean, when he got stabbed, I was like, okay, I know you're the main character of this story, but these things happening to you also make me really fucking stressed out, so can we not? The entire ending sequence when they're trying to figure out where the bomb is and how to get it out of the city, oh my god, that had me losing a couple years off my life. And then Pell sacrificing himself for everyone else was so wonderful, and I low-key kind of hate that it was a fake out death. As much as I'm glad that he's okay, I feel like it's it always takes away a little bit of the impact when it's actually a fake out death. Happy for him, but for the sake of the emotional impact of this, I wish it would have been a real death. And that sounds so shitty to say, but obviously we're reading fiction and we know that conflict drives us when we're reading. And so sometimes when you give characters plot armor like that, it just kind of defeats the point. But anyways, that's Alabasta. I know that I talked very quickly about it, but in reality, it's just because I don't want to burn myself out on these early ones. Obviously, I have posted a lot about these already. So far, Alabasta, the arc, was the most political one because we saw, you know, themes of corruption, propaganda, civil war, you know, political manipulation, and it was just wild. Because again, I feel like, I mean, I can talk about this as someone with like a very new perspective on One Piece. If you don't know anything about One Piece, you really do think that it's just silly pirate story, you know? Like you're not thinking that this larger than life story is something that's going to show you such important themes that are so crucial to talk about now, you know, especially if you live in the United States. I loved Vivi's growth in this one. I feel like she's going to be such a wonderful leader of Alabasta, and I hope we see her again. I was so sad that she didn't join as a Straw Hat, but it makes sense to me. I feel like if she had joined, it would have been very weird because obviously we see that her entire purpose is to save her kingdom, and it makes so much sense that she stayed. The moment of everyone raising their hands was so beautiful. I honestly considered getting the X on my arm, but that place is already occupied with the tattoo, so maybe one day I'll get it somewhere else. But I really loved it, just like I'm sure everyone else did. I love that this kind of shows us that the Straw Hats, they're not ever in it for like the fame or the money. Like they really just do what feels right. They do what their friends need, and I just love them. I think they are such a wonderful crew, such a wonderful main character cast. I really had the best time with the saga. I still think it's like such a strong early one that like sets the stage for what's to come later really well. Yeah, I will see you guys at, oh god, what's next? Oh, I'll see you guys in Skypiea next. We're going up. Bye now.